Right, I want to do strumming. I got into it with a client of mine. I was just going to show the video of that, but it was sort of through like QuickTime Player on my laptop, which is behind there, and the quality wasn't so great. So we're talking about strumming. Things just like whenever we're talking about what's going on with your left hand, pressing down too hard, overexertion, and picking, overexertion, saying we want to get down to this very light way of picking. That's going to make us more efficient. It's going to make us faster. And then from there, we can add a little bit more volume and muscle, but we just want to be able to get to that 0 point. This is the same with strumming. If we're a little too tense and a little too tight, we're sort of aiming upwards as we're going down, and then aiming downward as we go up, right? And then we sort of get that sound. We can let the pick do a bulk of the work by loosening it up. Now, this is what we need to get into. How you're holding the pick when you're strumming. If we're out this way, this muscle may get a little tired just because we need to clamp down like that. How I like to do it for two reasons. Reason number one is it takes this muscle away, is if we curl that finger around and just lay it on top. And the reason is this way, your thumb is sort of fighting against your first finger and your first finger is fighting against your thumb. And they're sort of going back and forth, and thus they need to squeeze together. If it's this way, right, that first finger's not really going anywhere. That's not the way it bends, So when that thumb lays on top of it, it doesn't really have anywhere to go. We don't need to squeeze real tight. Now, how we can get a really loose grip, and I always say this whenever I'm talking about like my fast playing stuff, fast picking stuff, or with this strumming, is if I took a new guitar player's brain, put it into my body, and I were to play, just something like that, they would be shocked at how little I'm playing, how much I'm not pressing down, how much I'm not squeezing, how much I'm not digging into the strings. So it is hard to get to this 0 point. We want that feeling of grabbing this, just like handlebars or a hammer or something. We want the feeling of that string because this feels like nothing and this sort of feels like nothing, right? And we don't have the sensory sensitivity, right? The sensory sensitivity to be able to pick up on that, and it feels like nothing's going to happen or we're going to drop the pick or whatever it is. So when we're holding the pick now, the reason that I like this is we can let the pick do the work, not having to turn up to go down and turn down to go up. Otherwise, it sort of gets stuck in the strings, and it still will get stuck in the strings. If I'm covering a good amount of that surface area and then putting the pick down, I can let that be so loose that the pick can like wiggle in there. That's how we get that nice loose sound, right? But it's not going to fall out because I'm covering a good amount of it, right? The further that gets out or the less I'm covering the pick, the more I need to be careful and squeeze onto it. So if I'm holding on to a good amount of that surface area, and then I can just let it be nice and loose, that's what I always like doing. From there, a test that you can do, play whatever chord you want and just do an up and down. Right? Maybe coming from the elbow, maybe get a little bit more just wrist in there. Right? That's just going to show that your pick is loose enough and you're not fighting it and letting it get stuck in there, right? And really what we're doing for any strumming pattern is just that, right? We just don't want to be doing, like moving our hand around like that. Now, from there, if we want to add volume, we start putting a little bit more pressure on the pick. It's nice and loose, a little bit more pressure. Not really doing much more. I can add a little bit of downswing and a little bit of upswing. And then lastly, we can get our elbow involved when we want to get really, really loud and really, really heavy. But practicing that very lightly is going to be your best option, and that's how your strumming will get smooth and it'll sound good. The guitar does sound good played really quietly, I think, as well as cranked up to 10 and smashed through the speakers. Who knows? So that is what I was working on with a client today with strumming. I hope it helps.